Recently I made a tweet about how Tom Riddle Sr., aka Lord Voldemort's father, had a very tragic life, and a lot of people asked me to expand on it, so I thought, why not bring the Harry Potter Life of videos back? In this video, I'm going to go over every detail we know about Meropy Gaunt and Tom Riddle Sr., and I'll put all of that into one cohesive storyline to explain the life of Voldemort's parents. If you like this video, hit that like button. It will greatly help the channel with the algorithm, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, and you can also follow me on my other social medias, all of which are linked down below, and all of which have similar content that I make here on this channel. Now that I've said that, let's get the video started. Tom Riddle Sr. was a Muggle born in the year 1905 to Thomas and Mary Riddle. He was incredibly handsome, well-dressed, and well-mannered, though a bit entitled and snobby. He grew up living a very lavish lifestyle, as his family was insanely wealthy. He was raised in a mansion dubbed Riddle Manor, which was perched on top of a hill overlooking the village of Little Hangleton, a town full of people who were in a much lower social class than the Riddles were. One of the closest residences to Riddle Manor happened to be the home of the lowest of low in the town, the Gaunt family. In fact, their house wasn't even a house, it was actually a shack. Living there was Marvolo and his two kids Morphin and Meropy Gaunt, both of whom had crooked eyes due to inbreeding in the family, meaning Meropy was the complete opposite of the good-looking Tom Riddle Sr. This inbreeding took place because they were actually pure-blood wizards who wanted to keep their family pure, and to make that a reality, they had to conceive within the family. I know, pretty messed up. The Gaunts were descendants of Salazar Slytherin, one of the most prominent wizards in history and a founder of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. The Gaunts were once a wealthy family, but they lost their riches many generations ago, meaning that Meropy and her family were dirt poor. The only two things of value that they had were two heirlooms, which included a locket that belonged to Salazar Slytherin himself, which Meropy normally wore around her neck, and a Gaunt ring passed down in the family. Funnily enough, the Gaunt ring held a stone that happened to be the Resurrection Stone, one of the three Deathly Hallows, meaning they were also descendants of the Peverell family, another one of the most prominent families in the wizarding world, but they never knew that. And obviously they never knew about the Resurrection Stone, because Marvolo definitely would have taken advantage of that some way or another. For 18 years of her life, Marvolo and Morphin physically and emotionally abused Meropy, and they did this so badly that it hindered her magical ability, making them think that she was a squib, a person born from magical parents but who had no magical ability themselves. When describing her, she was said to be defeated looking after all of the abuse she endured. Going back to Tom Riddle, he started dating a very pretty girl named Cecilia, and they were the it couple in the town of Little Hangleton, both being around the age of 18 at the time. From a distance, Meropy had a major crush on Tom, and one day when her brother saw her watching him while in the garden, Morphin decided to go to Riddle Manor to curse Tom, half to upset his sister and half because he hated muggles. He shot a hex at Riddle that sprouted hives all over his body, and this of course broke the statute of secrecy, or the law that wizards aren't allowed to use magic in front of muggles, especially when it's being used on the muggle. The Ministry of Magic stepped in and they altered Tom's memory to make him forget this incident, and the Ministry sent someone to the Gaunt house to alert Morphin of his hearing. Bob Ogden was the Ministry official sent, and let's just say his visit did not go well. Morphin immediately attacked him with a knife, and Marvolo said that what his son did wasn't wrong because the muggle deserved it simply for being a muggle. When they entered the Gaunt shack where Meropy was, Ogden mentioned that Morphin attacked a muggle, and Meropy was so surprised and upset that she dropped the pot she was holding. Marvolo called her a useless sack of muck and laughed at her when she couldn't use magic to fix the pot. Ogden pitied her, and he used his own wand to fix it. Then, when Ogden said that Morphin had a hearing at the Ministry for what he did, Marvolo lost his temper and tried to show his status with the Gaunt ring and dragged Meropy over by the Slytherin locket around her neck to show that as well. However, this was not the flex that Marvolo thought it was, and it actually really escalated the situation. Things calmed down though, as just then they heard a loud carriage go by. Meropy looked out the window with great interest, knowing that it was probably Tom Riddle. The four wizards listened, and they heard Tom and his girlfriend Cecilia speaking. Cecilia complained about the ugliness of the Gaunt shack and asked why his family didn't remove it. Riddle replied saying that it was the only land in the village that didn't belong to his family, really showing off how snobby he can be. After they passed, Morphin taunted Meropy, saying that the muggle boy had a girlfriend and that he would never like her. This caught the attention of Marvolo immediately, and he asked Morphin what he was talking about. When Morphin said that Meropy liked the muggle and oftentimes hung out the window waiting for him to pass, Marvolo lost it. He called Meropy a squib and a blood traitor, and he strangled her, not letting go. Ogden stepped in, firing a spell that shot Marvolo off of Merope. Ogden then ran for his life, and Morphin chased after him with a knife and fired hexes at him. As he was running, Ogden ran into the carriage of Tom Riddle Sr., and Riddle really showed his true colors here, as he and Cecilia simply laughed at Ogden's panic, not even offering to help the man. Ogden disapparated to the Ministry of Magic, and he returned with reinforcements 15 minutes later. There was a massive duel that broke out, Marvolo and Morphin versus a group of Ministry officials. Merope watched from the house as her brother and father were finally taken down and arrested. Merope took a second to realize that she was all alone at the house, free from the abuse she had dealt with for her entire life. She was free for a long time too, because Morphin was sentenced to 3 years in Azkaban and her father was sentenced to 6 months. Being free of abuse for so long, her magical abilities finally came through and she no longer had trouble producing magic. Now, Marvolo expected his daughter to wait at the house until his sentence was over, but Merope had no intention of doing this. Merope actually left the shack forever, taking with her the locket that belonged to Slytherin and leaving her father a note saying what she had done. Merope then went out to get a love potion from a wizarding shop, and she formed a plan. On a hot day, she put the love potion in some water and waited on a hill near Riddle Manor. Then, when Tom rode by on his own, she offered him the water, and after he consumed the love potion, he instantly fell in love with Merope. To the shock of everyone in town, Tom dropped his beautiful girlfriend Cecilia and ran off with the ugly, poor, and outcasted Merope. It was the talk of the town, and it made no sense to anybody. Dumbledore described it saying this: "You can imagine the gossip it caused when the squire's son ran off with the tramp's daughter Merope." For months, Merope made sure to keep the love potion flowing in Tom, knowing full well he would never be with a girl like her without it. The two got married shortly after that, and they were intimate at least once, but probably more than once, which is quite disturbing when you think about it from Tom Riddle Sr.'s point of view. He was basically date raped for months on end. That's so messed up. One of the times they were intimate though resulted in Merope carrying Tom's baby. After months of being with Tom, delusions started to set in for Merope about how he felt about her. She was sure that he really did love her as much as she loved him. Not wanting to enslave the man she loved anymore, she stopped giving Tom the love potion. She thought that since they spent so much time together, he might actually love her, and if not that, she thought he would at least stay for the baby. She was of course wrong, and as soon as the love potion wore off, he left immediately. Tom returned to Riddle Manor, and he told his family, Cecilia, and some townfolk that he had been, as he described, hoodwinked and taken in, and he thought to himself that it was almost as though he was under a spell that he couldn't fight. He did not voice that part though because he feared he would sound crazy. Taking another look at this, the thought of being hoodwinked and taken in with no control over what you do is terrifying. It really makes you wonder why love potions are legal and why they're literally sold in joke shops. Like, this is as far from a joke as you can get. This is serious messed up stuff that we have in our own world too. But I digress, let's get back to the story. The townfolk in Little Hangleton obviously did not know that Tom was put under a spell, so they assumed that Merope had lied to Riddle about being pregnant with his baby and that was why he married her. Then when he found out that it wasn't his, he ran for the hills. Tom went back to his normal life, though Cecilia did not take him back after he sort of humiliated her, leaving her for the tramp's daughter, but everything else went back to the way it was. He never had any desire to see Merope again, nor did he ever try to discover what happened to his son. Meanwhile, Merope was now alone, pregnant, and had no money. Tom breaking her heart made her never want to use magic again, and she never did. And it also made her pretty weak and sort of ill. One day she made a trip to Knockturn Alley, and she went to the shop Borgin & Burke. There she sold Slytherin's locket for a very unfair price, Merope getting completely underpaid for the very rare and expensive object. However, this didn't really matter because she was slowly losing the will to live. When she knew she was getting close to delivering her baby on December 31st, 1926, she went to a Muggle orphanage, knowing she would not live much longer after giving birth. She died an hour after birthing her son, and her last words were saying that she hoped he looked like his dad, and told the matron at the orphanage to name the boy Tom after his father, Marvolo after his grandfather, and to have his surname be Riddle. Tom Marvolo Riddle was born and raised at that orphanage, and Merope did get her wish, as he looked exactly like his good-looking father. Tom Riddle Sr. had no idea that his son was named after him, nor did he know anything about his son. However, that would change in 1943 when his 16-year-old son, now self-proclaimed Lord Voldemort, paid him a visit. He had found where his father was after visiting his uncle Morphin, who actually thought that Voldemort was his father and the boy that he had hexed all those years ago because they were almost identical. When Voldemort entered Riddle Manor, he met his father and his paternal grandparents and used the killing curse on all three of them. He then fled the scene, actually pinning their murders on his uncle Morphin in the Wizarding World. Meanwhile, in the Muggle world, the town was perplexed how this happened, as there was no sign of anything physically wrong with the Riddles. The only thing that was noted was that they had a look of terror on their face. The Muggle police arrested a few people for the murder, like the caretaker Frank Bryce, but he was released shortly after when they didn't have enough proof to hold him. However, the town always blamed Frank for the murder, even decades after it happened. With Merope gone, Marvolo ended up dying an early death after being released from Azkaban, either because of the shock that his daughter left him and that his two heirlooms were gone, Merope selling the locket and Voldemort taking the ring when he killed his father. Or the other reason, according to Dumbledore, could be that he died because he never really knew how to feed himself and died without being in Merope's care. Meanwhile, Tom was buried on the Riddle Manor grounds with his parents. After dying though, Tom was again disturbed by the son he never wanted, as Voldemort planned his rebirth in the Riddle Manor graveyard and used his father's bone to make a new body for himself. Both Tom and Merope were not good people, both doing some pretty snobby or messed up things, but when compared to the son that they birthed, they could not hold suit, because their son went on to become one of the most evil wizards of all time. There's a cool fan theory that says because Voldemort was conceived under a love potion, that was why he could never feel or comprehend love. And that's a theory that has actually been debunked by Rowling, but I still thought it was really cool and I wanted to add it at the end of the video. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these two controversial characters. Are they good? Are they bad? Which one is worse? Let me know below. I'm excited to read your thoughts. That's all I have for you guys today though, so I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. You can follow me on Instagram to see more of my personal life, like my cute dog Loki, and some behind the scenes movie flame stuff. I also do similar content on TikTok and Twitter that I do here on this channel, so if you like what I do here, check them out. All the handles are right below me, and links are in the description. Over here are my wonderful patrons. If you want to be featured on the next video, plus get a few other perks, become a patron today. As always, if you liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe, and look out for more great movie flame videos on the way.